So like I said, what we've got here today is the brand new Hollyland Mars 300 Pro. This in particular is the standard version, but they do also have another which they call the enhanced version. So as you can see here with the standard kit, both the transmitter and the receiver have built-in antennas, making it extremely compact for a full-featured 300-foot wireless video system. But the enhanced version does come with removable external antenna on the transmitter and a slightly beefier build, mostly just to protect those external antenna connections. In ideal conditions, they should perform about the same, both rated for around 300 feet or just under 100 meters line of sight, but the external antenna version may deal with interference or a blocked line of sight ever so slightly better. There is a $20 price difference between the two, the enhanced version coming in at $469 for the kit and the standard version here for $449. Now, you can also get the transmitter by itself for just $199 because yes, this can now also work with mobile devices using the HollyView app. And if you want to see more on that app, check below the video for a link to my walkthrough video. So let's take a quick look at how this compares to the rest of the Hollyland Mars lineup. The Mars X comes in at the cheapest at $179, but you can get the Mars 300 Pro transmitter only for $199. The original Mars 300 kit, not the Pro version, is $349, and the new Pro is either $449 or $469 depending on which version you get. And the Mars 400 goes for either $539 or $649 if you want the SDI version. The Mars X's main appeal is its size and its simplicity, but for not much more money you can get the much more full-featured 300 Pro transmitter, which is an awesome value. I think that the extra $100 from the original Mars 300 kit up to the Mars 300 Pro kit is definitely worth it for the added functionality of mobile app compatibility and also the antenna-less design, just to name a few things. And from there, stepping up to the Mars 400 is a definite step up in professional build quality and professional connections, especially with the 400S. The Mars X, Mars 300, and 300 Pro all have ranges of 300 feet, while the 400 and 400S reach a little bit further to 400 feet, as you can tell from the name, and those are all measured with line of sight, of course. Only you will really know what is necessary for you in this particular area, but as far as the range that is stated in their specs, they've always been reliable for me. On the Mars X, you get a single HDMI input, but nothing else. Again, size and simplicity over full-featured. While the Mars 300 and 300 Pro both step that up to include HDMI loop out on the transmitter, as well as dual HDMI outputs from the receiver. Now, that's a big step up for the extra money, and the Mars 400 is the same, but the 400S has a single HDMI input and a single SDI input on the transmitter with no loop out, and one of the outputs from the receiver is also SDI. Between the Mars 300 Pro and the Mars 400, the main difference is going to be build quality and design, but if you need SDI, the 400S is the way to go. Now, believe it or not, the Mars X has actually the best performance with 0.07 seconds latency, and the new Mars 300 Pro is not far behind with 0.08 seconds. The original Mars 300 and the Mars 400 series both have around 0.1 seconds of latency, and in some cases people have been concerned that this is pushing the limits of what's acceptable for pulling focus. The Cosmo series will be your best bet if that's really critically what you need, but it's nice to see even a small step forward even in these new entry-level kits like the Mars X and the Mars 300 Pro. The Mars 300 Pro also gets the Pro feature of channel scanning both in the app and on the actual receiver unit, where the original had neither. And this is actually the first in this Mars series to have channel scanning on both the app and the receiver. You also now get an OLED screen on the Mars 300 Pro, which you didn't have on the original Mars 300, and this makes channel selection and menu diving much easier. So including other improvements like app compatibility we talked about, firmware updates through that app, and a lighter weight, you can see where the Pro in that name came from. So you can see more of the little specs with the link in the video description, but some of the last highlights worth mentioning is that this does use that 5 GHz wireless. It takes up to 1080p 60 frames per second video signals, and you can either power this with NPF batteries or USB-C. You can expect a pretty good battery life from these as well. The transmitter in particular draws a pretty average 11 watts or so, and the receiver only 4 watts, making it perfect for a director's monitor like this one without sucking up a lot of extra battery life. You can get 1 to 2 hours with the smallest size NP-F on the transmitter and over 4 hours with that same battery on the receiver. Physically speaking, there's a lot of high quality plastics in this, but it is very lightweight at around 130 grams. Perfect for small cameras, gimbal use. It also sports a small screen on the side instead of the face of the unit, along with a clickable dial that lets you change channels and navigate through those menus, as well as some small screw threads on the face of the unit to mount or remove a 1/4 inch thread adapter for a little more versatility in how you mount it. So now that we've got the basics down, let's just quickly talk about some of the small details that I personally like about this. I'm actually a big fan of having that display screen on the side. I feel like regardless of where or how you mount it now, that allows the display to be viewed more easily. If I mount the Mars 400S using the front screw thread adapter on top of a camera or flat up against my rig, for example, I can't see that screen anymore. The transmitter and the receiver will automatically pair with each other, so it's not a big deal anyway most of the time, but if you do need to change channels to avoid interference or mess with any of the other settings in the menu, it's actually been really nice to have it this way. Now, speaking of messing with those settings though, you can actually finally adjust the fan manually in the 300 Pro. There are only 2 settings at the moment, neither of which are fully off, but you can select auto or low, and the low setting is sufficiently quiet. I know that Hollyland has also put these through a lot to make sure that they can function anywhere from -20 degrees to 98 degrees Celsius, so if you do feel it get a little bit hot to the touch, which I have, I wouldn't worry about it. Anyway, I'm really glad that the front side mounting plate is also removable to give you a really slim and simple profile when you need it, and the small screws on the 1/4 inch adapter plate are self-contained, so they don't fall out and it's not easy to lose them, and it's also easy to attach and detach without using any tools. With this design, you do also still get access to that 1/4 inch screw thread on the bottom, whether or not the front adapter is in use. Despite this being one of Hollyland's most affordable kits, this is a very full-featured kit here with pass-through HDMI on the transmitter, which is very useful for using an on-camera monitor. You've got dual HDMI outputs on the receiver as well. Now, sitting right between the Mars 300 and the Mars 400 in terms of price, it's an incredible balance of features. So, while you honestly can't go wrong with anything from Hollyland in my personal experience, it is awesome to see them filling in all the little gaps in their lineup with something for everyone, all the way from the Mars X up to the Mars 400S, and then of course their Cosmo line if you really do need a little bit more still. I think I'll find myself using this kit a lot, and I love that they made the transmitter available by itself for people who want something like the Mars X, but with that HDMI loop out, more power options, and the ability to expand to a full kit in the future.
Such devices are used to communicate with your team during video production and events, and thanks to their properties as a full duplex system, enable an active conversation, unlike a classic walkie-talkie where you always have to wait until the line is free again. Out of the box, Hollyland offers you a comprehensive package. It includes the base station, 4 body pack transmitters and 5 one-sided headsets, which are delivered in fabric bags. As usual from Holyland, there are also some spare parts such as another antenna, replacement ear cups and pop protectors. In addition, a 4-pin XLR adapter with which you can operate the station by AC power and 4 USB-C cables for charging the body pack transmitters are included. This is possible direct at the base station at the USB ports provided. You can charge the body pack transmitters when operating via AC power, but also with connected NP-F batteries that can be connected to the top of the device. In both cases, charging is only carried out when the base station is switched on. However, the body pack transmitters can also be powered with an external USB adapter. In addition to the USB ports for charging, there's another USB-C connection for installing updates. On the front, next to the power button, is the OLED color display, on which the status of the body pack transmitters can be monitored and function in the menu can be set using the buttons located next to it. Further to the right is the remote mic kill switch, with which you can interrupt the microphone transmission from everyone except yourself. The headset of the base station is plugged into the 3.5mm jack next to it, and the volume can be adjusted using the rotary switch. On the left side of the device is the XLR power input and a LAN port, with which it is possible to connect a second base station and send the signal to up to 8 body packs at the same time. These also have a 3.5mm jack input on the top for connecting the headset and can be switched on using the volume control. After switching on, the transmitters are in mute mode, so they only hear what can be changed by pressing and holding the mute talk switch on the right. You can then turn the transmission on and off by folding the microphone up and down. Under the mute talk switch, there's another USB-C port for updates and a connection for an external tele. Like the base station, the channels can be changed by using the buttons on the front. The base station and the body pack transmitters are made of aluminum and look very high quality and robust, so they do not create the feeling that if something is accidentally dropped, the unit breaks directly. With the plastic clip, the transmitter can be attached to the pants and is hardly noticeable with a weight of less than 200 grams. It then can be used for up to 8 hours without recharging. Depending on the NP-F used, the base station can also manage up to 20 hours per battery without AC power. This means the system can also be used without a nearby socket. The system then has a range from up to 300 meters. A static background noise is noticeable when the connection is active. The conversation partner also sounds a little bit dull, but convince yourself.
Hallo, ihr hört mich gerade über die Funkstrecke. Das ist der tatsächliche Ton, den ihr hört, wenn ihr das Headset aufhabt.
Nevertheless, in every situation in which we used the system, the others were always easy to understand, even with loud ambient noise, in which we even faded out the background noise after some time. All in all, you can say that during our test, the Mars T1000 made communication with each other easy and saved us a few walks. If you are relied on communication with your team during your production, this system is definitely worth considering.